Hello everyone and welcome to Insight. In this edition, we bring you the Managing Director for Oil Search, Peter Botten. He clears the air and presents Oil Search's view on the recent developments in the country.
Thank you, Mr. Botten, for joining us here on Insight.
It's a real pleasure to be here.
As you know, we're here to discuss some of the issues surrounding the Oil Search shares purchased by the Papua New Guinea government and, of course, any updates from Oil Search. According to public announcements, Total has paid $401 million for a 40.1% stake in the project, while Oil Search has paid $900 million for a 22.8% stake in the area containing elk and antelope. Would it be fair for most people to think that Oil Search has paid far too much for this stake?
Look, you have to put the purchase and look at the details of each one of what we're paying and what Total's paying. We're paying money up front for what we think to be a certain size of resource, as is Total. So we believe that the resource at Elk Antelope is a very substantial one. Potentially contains resource at more than 7 TCF of gas, which is a big resource. Now, Total believes it is paying money up front, but if the resource gets large and gets to 7 TCF, effectively they're paying the same amount of money as us. So we're paying our money up front, but we're paying much, much less for the upside of the gas. They're paying their money, less money up front, but they're paying more money if the upside of the resource proves out. So a different structure of deal, and that was a requirement, a commercial requirement of the people we were buying it off. But at the end of the day, if the resource is 7 TCF and above, if it is 7 TCF and above, then Total pay more than us. If it's 7 TCF or less, then we pay slightly more than Total. You have to look at the detail of the commercial agreement to actually understand how we pay.
I think that explains why a lot of people have been confused about the amount of money spent on the stake. Is it possible that Oil Search paid much more than a commercial price for its stake in the Elk Antelope because of the straightforward funding coming from the Papua New Guinea government?
Well, firstly, I don't think we did pay too much. We paid a commercial price, different structure to Total, but one that's very reasonable for the size of resource that we think is in Elk Antelope. And if you look at world benchmarks, that's a very reasonable price if you think it's a 7 TCF gas field, which we believe it is. Frankly, what we paid was completely independent of anything to do with our financing of that transaction. We obviously had to raise $900 million or thereabouts and some money, extra money to support the future development. So that funding could have come from a range of sources. We certainly had a lot of shareholder support to underwrite a share issue to all our shareholders, and that's something we were pursuing very actively when we concluded the deal with Pacific LNG. We did, however, were approached by the government, recognising that their shareholding that was held originally by them was going to IPIC, and the government wished to take a 10% share and support the financing. We then had a choice to either go with a broader share placement, which was part of our original plan, or to place those shares to the government. Now, frankly, we think government's interest in Oil Search has been a very important part in us being able to grow the company over many years. The government got their shares through the merger of Origin Minerals and Oil Search back in 2002. And since that time, the government shareholding value has increased by more than 8-fold, which has been a great return on the government's money. We believe with the future development of Elk Antelope and possible future expansions of PNG LNG, plus our other business, our oil business in PNG, that our future in terms of building further value in Oil Search is an outstanding future.
Don't go away. When we come back, Mr. Botten shares more information on Insight. Welcome back to Insight. Oil Search Managing Director Peter Botten explains the dispute issued to Interoil last Friday, the 28th of March, over the PRL 15 deal. PRL 15, or otherwise known as the Elk Antelope Gas Fields, is set to be PNG's second LNG project. Here, Mr. Botten explains how all partners in a cooperative joint venture must adhere to, respect and abide by mutually accepted standards and guidelines.
We understand that Oil Search has issued a dispute with InterOil as of yesterday. Can you explain this dispute?
Yes, we have a rule book that we run our business within a joint venture. That's called a joint operating agreement. That joint operating agreement governs how we do things within the joint venture between the various companies involved. And in the transfer of interest from InterOil to Total, we believe the rule book was not abided by. And what we're seeking right now is to ensure that the rule book is respected and our rights under that rule book are respected. So we've issued a notice to InterOil to say we're concerned that there is the rule book wasn't actually followed. So we'll follow through with that. Behind all of that is a need for us and a real very strong desire to see the development of Elk Antelope done in a timely and capital efficient way so that we can deliver the most value not just for Oil Search shareholders but also for the state. And behind it all is the influence that we have and potentially can bring to that development and make sure that we're following the rules so that that development can be done in the best possible way for us and the country. And that's why we're enforcing, or what we think, enforcing the rule book on how we do our business.
If I can just go in particular to the dispute, our social media has stated a lot of articles relating to the preemptive rights. Can you describe for our viewers so they can understand about the preemptive rights for Oil Search?
Yeah, there are a number of ways that you can transfer interest to various companies. And one of those ways is to do what InterOil did back in December with their announcement with Total, is to say we're transferring interest directly to Total. Under those circumstances, other joint venture partners such as Oil Search have preemptive rights and have an ability to match that pricing. There are other ways of doing that, including putting interests into a company, getting the appropriate assignment between the various parties so that the interest is approved going into that company, and then selling the company. And the most recent deal, the revised deal that was put on the table by Total and InterOil earlier this week, involves the sale of an InterOil company to Total, who now own that company. Now there are, in our view, ways and means governed by the joint operating agreement which says how you should transfer the interest into those companies and how you could sell those companies. And we believe that there are doubts about the validity under the rule book that we run by about those transfers, and we're therefore seeking further clarification that that transfer was done properly. And if it wasn't done properly, then obviously Oil Search has the ability to potentially exercise our preemptive rights. This is normal sort of commercial practice between various companies. We have a rule book, we try and always stick by that rule book, but if there are disputes, then you can go to arbitration, you can go to the courts to make sure that your rights are protected, and that's what we're doing.
I think what they misconstrued was Oil Search shut out. So can you confirm Oil Search hasn't been shut out?
To be honest, that's complete rubbish. I could use another word. We deliberately bought that interest. We're very, very happy with 23%. We're therefore a major interest holder in Elk Antelope, and effectively we want to be heard within the development of Elk Antelope. And you know, Total is an extremely good developer of LNG. InterOil has done a magnificent job of finding the resource. We also bring experience. We also have access to capital infrastructure that we already have built. And we want to make sure that the development is built in a proper way. But to conclude that we've been shut out is just fundamentally incorrect. That 23% is what we wanted, 23% is what we bought, and we therefore have a significant say in the way forward. We're just making sure that our voice is heard and that the development can go ahead in an effective way.
When all the disputes have been sorted and all parties are in agreement in this cooperative joint venture, how soon does Oil Search anticipate a green light for this project?
Well, clearly that's subject to discussion, and as far as we're concerned, we should be moving for a green light for front-end engineering design and then final investment decision as soon as possible. Certainly our view is that we should be moving to an FID sometime in 2015. So on that basis, that's part of the discussion that we've got and have going on between ourselves and our co-venture partner, Interoil, about how we manage and move this project forward. And that's really the key. It's all about value for the Oil Search shareholders, but it's also value for the state, it's also value for the Gulf Province, it's also value for the whole of PNG. And I think we all want to see progression to the development as soon as we can on a reasonable commercial basis, and we all want to see Papua New Guineans employed and the benefits flowing back to the various companies, the state, the landowners and the country as soon as we can. We're just trying to make sure that happens and make sure we have an influence on how that happens.
If we can talk about the relationship between Interoil and Oil Search, are there lessons to be learnt from the PNG LNG project that you can bring into this project, the second LNG?
We've been operating in this country for more than 80 years. We've been operating and running the oil business and operating the Hides gas field since 2003. We have a lot of experience in relationships with landowners, with managing the fiscal issues, helping to the relationships with government. We believe there's a lot of experience that we can bring to this, and I think that's recognised by both Total and Interoil. And we're going to, obviously, having put substantial money on the table, going to play a significant role in facilitating that, but with a PNG angle, because we have to bring our landowners along. We have to be doing things which maybe foreign companies don't do. So we have a very comprehensive program to ensure that the benefit streams and the expectations of many of our communities about delivery of services we can help government to try and meet. And that's something that's core to our business. It's a little bit different to many other companies around town and in this country, but it's something that's very important to us in terms of building our business and ensuring that business has a stable roots and can grow further.
When Insight returns, we ask Mr. Botten of Oil Search about the previous IPIC transactions from 2009. You're with Insight. The Managing Director of Oil Search is on hand to clear the air on issues relating to previous transactions from 2009, where the PNG government raised 1.68 billion Australian dollars by selling to IPIC in Dubai a bond against its Oil Search stake. Here, he clearly states Oil Search's position on the deal, which was made 5 years ago and matured in March this year.
If I can just go back to the IPIC exchangeable bonds, which is relating to this ongoing controversial issue. We understand that the International Petroleum Investment Corporation was initially introduced by Oil Search to the Papua New Guinea government and the IPBC as a likely friendly buyer for Oil Search shares held at the time by the Papua New Guinea government. Is this true?
No, that's not correct. There were a number of ways that the PNG government at the time were looking at funding their equity portion of the PNG LNG project. And there were a number of ways that they were endeavouring to do it. And the government had to come up with around $1.6, $1.7 billion to fully fund their equity share of PNG LNG. Now, there are a number of parties that were potentially involved in that financing. And the PNG government chose to leverage their Oil Search shares, e.g. forward sell their Oil Search shares at a price of $8.55 at that time. Now that was a government decision, that's not something that we were involved in, but frankly it was a very good decision for government to leverage those shares, because those shares could be leveraged at a high price. And as I've mentioned, when government took over those shares in 2002, they were just above $1 a share. They actually effectively sold them at $8.55, which was great value for them. Now, I think it's very important for government to take, and the state to take, direct equity in major resource projects such as PNG LNG, and by forward selling effectively the Oil Search shares, that delivered the government their maximum direct equity in the project, but it did effectively meant they'd mortgaged their Oil Search shares.
In a previous interview, former Public Enterprise Minister Arthur Samara stated to a reporter there was no clause in the IPIC agreement for the buyback. Is it possible the government wasted much time and money on numerous flights for our current IPBC Managing Director and others to IPIC's headquarters in Dubai this year?
That's a decision for IPIC, and whether government wanted to buy back those shares or not was a government decision. Frankly, it's a very sensible way, and I think the government approached it sensibly, to be able to have discussions with IPIC about a potential buyback. If they believe in the future of Oil Search and the value growth in Oil Search, it was a reasonable discussion to have with IPIC. IPIC is a sovereign wealth fund. They had a view that they liked the value of the shares, and they saw that the value growth potential of the shares was substantial. So the reality was they didn't wish to sell. The actual nature of the deal between IPIC and the government, the actual structure of that deal, I frankly don't know. It's not our deal. But at the end of the day, I found it, dare I say it, encouraging to have IPIC saying, we believe there's a lot more value in Oil Search shares, and I'm sorry, we're not selling them at $8.55. So as far as we were concerned, I think that's an endorsement of Oil Search's future value growth, and also PNG, because they want to hold a significant portion of the Oil Search register.
Coming up next, Mr. Botten gives his perspective on Papua New Guinea's investment in Oil Search. Some say it's a good investment in the long run, while others proclaim it to be a very bad one. Oil Search MD Peter Botten believes in the value and the benefit that Oil Search can continue to give to the people of Papua New Guinea.
Going from the IPIC, we'll go now to the UBS loan. The government purchase of the 10% stake in Oil Search can be regarded as a very good investment, as you have said, given the company's sharp rise in valuation over the years. Finance Minister Marape has suggested shares, now $8.50, could go as high as $20 by 2020. Do you believe this was a prime motivator for the government to purchase the shares?
Well, certainly I would hope that the prime motivation for the government was to see and that they believe that the value will rise significantly, and they can receive not just capital growth in the value of their shares, but also dividends from Oil Search's revenue stream. What I can say, and I've been working for Oil Search for 22 years now, Oil Search's future as I see it right now has never been better. And if I look at the production base of the company last year, we produced around 6.7 million barrels of oil equivalent. Next year, in the first full year of operations for PNG LNG, we'll produce close to 27 million barrels of oil equivalent. So more than a 4 times increase in production. That flows on to revenues, that flows on to cash flows, that flows on to potentially to dividends. So just by commissioning, having de-risked and built PNG LNG, you're going to see a 4-fold increase in production, which inevitably will see, in my view, a potential rise in value of that stake and an ability to receive reasonably significant dividends. From what we've done in buying ourselves into Elk Antelope, into PRL 15, my personal view, and the reason we did it, was because we see at least 2 more trains coming from Elk Antelope. So if you think we've got 2 trains now with PNG LNG, with 2 more trains potentially coming from Elk Antelope, together with potential further expansions from PNG LNG, together with further upside in our oil business, I think our future to further build our value is an unprecedented future that I've not seen in my 22 years being in the organisation. Now, I own, a lot of my own personal wealth is in Oil Search shares, and I'm not overly promoting that, but at the end of the day, I fundamentally believe the assets we've got can drive significant value growth, and therefore Oil Search is a very good investment for the state. And having the state as a shareholder allows us to work closely with them in an aligned way to address some of the issues that the state faces. I believe that we will see 2, maybe 3 more trains in Papua New Guinea over the next 5-6 years. What I do see as a fundamental is that PNG's biggest company, EG Oil Search, needs to play a very active role in managing the benefits and trying to make sure that the benefits from this project not just go to the project area landowners, but also across into the rest of the country. Because if those benefits don't happen and if the services are not delivered, then the stability of our business, which is 99% in Papua New Guinea, is under threat. So being able to work with government to do some of the service delivery. So right now we've got a comprehensive program using tax credits to deliver refurbishment of Morea House, the delivery of a new world-class stadium in Lloyd Robson, a number of major road projects in Southern Highlands and Hela. We have working with government on developing electricity projects in Highlands. We're working with government on health issues, the redevelopment of Tari Hospital, all of which allows the government to access our project management skills and our commitment to the country to help them deliver services which may not otherwise be easily delivered. But without that part of our business, which is essential to us, we think there's a risk of instability. We think people will very quickly get upset, and I would be if I was sitting in a village in Tari not getting those services. So we want to play a part, and part of our business is to do that, not just grow LNG trains, but also put something back and help government deliver essential services to our communities.
Exactly. You've also got a biomass in Lae. Can you explain the difference between the, going into the biomass sector and the gas?
Well, look, it's all part of, again, this process of Oil Search as being PNG's largest company, largest investor, with such a good future, as I believe, genuinely believe, putting something back. And biomass is something that could deliver a significant baseload power solution for Lae and the north coast of Papua New Guinea. We've been working with landowners in the Lae area to potentially develop the forestry plantations to support a baseload power station for Lae, and that involves more than 2,000 landowners. It involves them working with us. It gives them employment and money back into the community. But most importantly, anybody who's been to Lae it knows that it needs good long-term power solutions. And to date, in my view, those solutions have been all about urgency, all about today rather than 5 years' time. And the biomass project can deliver long-term, very competitively priced power to the whole of the North Coast on a baseload, much cheaper than the day-to-day business of dealing with heavy fuel oil or diesel. But what it does need is investment, PNG Power to take a long-term view about power, not a short-term. And if we can deliver competitively priced power in the Lae area, we believe there's a substantial number of industries who all employ Papua New Guineans who will expand as long as they've got stable, cheap, reliable power, and biomass can do that.
Exactly. I think that's a very important issue.
Coming up next, a recap of Prime Minister Peter O'Neill's response to Insight's question on Oil Search shares and the government's reasoning behind the 10% stake purchase.
For the viewer's interest, here's a recap of Prime Minister Peter O'Neill's response to Insight's question on Oil Search shares and the government's reasoning behind the 10% stake purchase.
Your government borrowed 3 billion kina for shares in Oil Search Limited, which Oil Search used to buy its stake in Interoil. But with the money you used for 10% in Oil Search, you could have directly bought the entire 22.5% stake in Interoil, rather than just having a 10% stake. What is your government's reasoning behind this?
Now, the Interoil project is not off the ground yet. Papua New Guinea still has the opportunity to still own up to 22.5% directly. So that option for Papua New Guinea government is still there. Now, for Oil Search, it is their own interest, the company's interest, that they want to participate in it, just like Total, just like Interoil in that project. But Papua New Guinea government will only take up that option when we have the front-end engineering and the final investment decisions are made on this project. So PNG government will own 22.5%, but it is down the track. The final investment decisions by the people who are trying to develop that, which is Interoil, Total, and Oil Search, is not concluded. And when they present those documents to government, PNG government will use that information to make a decision to whether to take 22.5%. So we will in fact own more. When we own 10% of Oil Search, we own more shares than the 19.4% we own in LNG, PNG LNG. We will own more shares indirectly in the Elk and Antelope. So we are increasing our shareholding. We are not reducing it, we are increasing it. So Papua New Guineans have got to realize that we own shares directly and indirectly through Oil Search in both these projects. So I think Papua New Guineans will now realize that we are trying to own directly our resource development projects in the country ourselves for the benefit of 7.5 million people. Now, we are not going to go out there and do deals that are going to benefit other people. We are trying to protect the interest of our people, and they have the right to own shares in these projects, and that is what we are trying to accomplish.
Our next viewer question: who exactly did your government rely on for a fair and commercial valuation of the shares in Oil Search Limited to justify the price you were paying? Can you explain the professional valuation that was done?
The valuation of the shares and the whole transaction that we are talking about was done by Secretary for Treasury and the Treasury officials, Central Bank Governor and the officials of the Bank of Papua New Guinea, IPBC Managing Director and the management of IPBC. These are our experts who are managing all our investments. So they process the transaction and advise us, yes, this is a good deal or not a good deal. And then government makes the decision. Now, those are the people that we rely on. I don't know who the former treasurer relies on, but I know who I depend on. These are the government officials. Using their knowledge and experience, they advise government. That's why we employ them. The second issue is that we look at price that we were supposed to be paying the Arabs. Arabs, when we were trying to buy back our shares from the Arabs, we were prepared to pay $8.55. That is the agreement that we signed many years back. But the shares that Oil Search offered to us was $8.20. So do we buy at $8.55 or $8.20? Any business person will tell you that they want to buy cheaper. So based on that, and also when the shares were trading, at the time when it was $8 almost 90 at the stock market. The stock prices were $8.90 and we are buying at $8.20. So all the indications show that this is the best deal, because at $8.20 we are buying it at a discount. We are paying it much less than what we were prepared to pay the Arabs, and we are paying much less than what the market was prepared to pay for the Oil Search shares by all the other shareholders. So all in all, I think all the experts that have given us the clearance to buy have done a great job.
So can you confirm this was an internal valuation?
Our officials have done an internal valuation, and by observing the market's valuation as well, and were able to give us advice to conclude on this transaction.
When we return, we talk about the legalities and investigations into the UBS loan. The question now is, how does that affect what is potentially PNG's second LNG project? Stay tuned. Ombudsman Commission intervention came as a surprise to many in the last defiant stand against the UBS loan. However, at this point in time, the Ombudsman Commission can only investigate and review the process which led to the 3 billion kina loan. Mr. Botton, however, welcomes the investigation, stating that it would show just how transparent the project really is.
Mr. Botton, if I can now speak about the PRL 15 legalities with the Ombudsman Commission. There's been a lot of public debate on the share placement to the government, and the Ombudsman Commission has, but too late, attempted to try and halt the deal with pending investigations. It has also cost the job of former Treasurer Don Pollio. What is your view on these developments?
I just want to draw a line to say that we're very supportive in having the government, the state, as an Oil Search shareholder, but that's their decision. We think it brings value to the state, but we also think it brings value to Oil Search. How they finance that is really up to the state, and we had nothing to do with their financing. What I do think is important, though, is for everybody to actually understand and get the facts around all of that. We certainly welcome the Ombudsman Commission's review, because hopefully it will shine the light on how the mechanics of how all of that comes together. And when people have the facts, they can make their own judgment. Unfortunately, without those facts, then sometimes interpretations can be erroneous, can be wrong. But the transparency of this transaction clearly will allow people to make up their own minds, and the intervention of the Ombudsman Commission we welcome, because certainly I think getting that information out is very important.
If the Ombudsman Commission or the National Courts decide that this was an illegal deal, what is the Oil Search facing?
Look, the government presently own the shares. I mean, that's a hypothetical question. The government owns the shares, the loan is in place, and they're a shareholder. The reality is that it is hypothetical. We'll see how it goes. But as far as we see, there's no impact.
On the capital structure for Oil Search, where does that place the government of Papua New Guinea?
PNG is the second largest shareholder, and obviously the largest shareholder right now is IPIC from Abu Dhabi, their sovereign wealth fund. The government is the second largest shareholder. But Oil Search has many shareholders from major institutions around the world. We have some very large superannuation funds from the US, from Australia, from Europe. We've got a really, really solid shareholder base which believe in the long-term future of Oil Search and in Papua New Guinea. And the only thing I would say about the recent debate is that we all need to be careful not to speculate. Go for facts and do the research, find out, then make your call. Because speculation, which is based on half fact or innuendo, impacts the credibility of PNG in the investment world. And there's no doubt the last couple of weeks have turned the lights on PNG, and there have been a lot of questions by investors from around the world. Fair enough too, but it's very healthy to have the debate within the country. My only caveat for all parties concerned, including Oil Search, is to be transparent, honest, and tell people the facts, and then they'll make up their mind, and then they'll see where we go. And I think some of the speculation has just been speculation. So the quicker the facts get out on the table, the better.
Oil Search's two top single largest shareholders are IPIC with 196.6 million shares, 13.2%, and the independent state of PNG with 149.4 million shares, 10%. They are the beneficial underlying shareholders behind various nominees' accounts at the top 20 list. Oil Search issued 149,390,244 shares to the independent state of Papua New Guinea on the 12th of March 2014. 12,377,994 shares are held directly by the state of PNG. The balance of the shares is being held in trust by UBS nominees on behalf of the independent state of Papua New Guinea. The state's acquisition of 10.1% equity in Oil Search bought the right of government to share in the upside of Oil Search as the company's value grows, having bought a significant stake in Elk Antelope. Oil Search is interested in seeing the development of those fields in a timely and accountable way that brings the most value to the state and Oil Search shareholders. Oil Search is now a significant equity holder in the Elk Antelope fields, and with 2 trains likely to be developed using the Elk Antelope resource plus possible expansion from PNG LNG, it is set to more double the size of their company over the next 5 years. Oil Search believes this would deliver significant value growth to all Oil Search shareholders, including the state of Papua New Guinea.
Lastly, one of the future benefits for PRL 15 is employment opportunities for our young men and women in Papua New Guinea. Do you have a message for them, especially our young men and women graduating grade 12? Where can they see themselves going if they want petroleum jobs? Do you have a special message for them?
Well, clearly it's an opportunity. I mean, clearly there were a lot of people involved, and I think Exxon did a very, very good job of training a large number of national people. In our oil business in the Highlands, we do whatever we can, but are expanding that training program. We employ many more people than Chevron did back in 2002, and many senior national staff in our supervisory positions. In reality, though, the future of the many, many young people in Papua New Guinea, I think people under 21 make up more than 50% of the population, is good education and good training. And the way that we can develop that is by having not just resource projects going ahead, and Elk Antelope is part of that, to ensure that we involve as many of the skilled and semi-skilled and obviously unskilled labour as possible in any development. But also broader than that, it provides the base of education and training which can be taken out and used in various communities. Resource projects use a lot of people when they're building. So it's important that we continue to develop a string of new developments in the resources sector. That will develop skilled people. Hopefully those skilled people can continue to be employed, or if not, when they are trained, they can go overseas and potentially work overseas as skilled labour. But we can't also forget the broader community and the long-term business, such as agriculture in the country. And resource projects are good for peaks of business, and building a string of LNG projects helps that employment. And certainly we as a PNG company are very committed to use as many as possible of our young people, the real talent in the country, to develop our business.
If I can ask you 2 viewer questions, and I think this would be important for our viewers to understand not only Oil Search but yourself. Where do you see Oil Search in 15 years' time in terms of its value and operations?
Look, I think there's a fantastic future for Oil Search. I've already said, when I look at the opportunities right now, and they're tangible opportunities, they're not blue sky opportunities, tangible opportunities for at least 2, maybe 3 more trains, LNG trains in PNG. There is an outstanding opportunity for the company to grow. And in 15 years' time, we're going to be very, very much larger than we are now. I'm convinced about that. There's an awful lot of work to do, and that growth is to a degree reliant on stability, political stability, fiscal stability, but also operating stability in this country. And that's why, as I say, the important part of our business right now is not just to build LNG trains, but also to make sure society in Papua New Guinea gets its fair crack and gets the services that they so desperately need. And I think any company, certainly a Papua New Guinea company, needs to play its part with government, with provincial governments and the communities to put something back. And if we do that, then I think the Oil Search in 15 years' time will be a world-class oil and gas producer, built on the back of resources, both in terms of oil and gas and people in Papua New Guinea. And I think if you look at our stellar growth since 1992, from 300 million to 13 billion as we stand now, with tangible growth projects that will more than double our production again and involve Papua New Guineans from across the country, I think that's an outstanding future and something that is very exciting.
I think on a last and very important question, Was the placement of Oil Search shares a bad deal for present and future generations of Papua New Guineans?
There's a lot of hard work. Money and value don't come without hard work and commitment, and sometimes a little bit of luck. But as I say, the spectre we have, the actual real future we have, if we're able to continue our tremendous track record of value growth with the development of at least 2 more LNG trains, I genuinely believe that the investment that all Oil Search shareholders are making right now will deliver substantial return in the future, and we have a track record of doing that in the past. Our opportunity set now, especially with our significant Antelope, our continued development of PNG LNG and our oil business gives us a great future, which as I say, think is very exciting.
Thank you, Mr. Button, for your time here on Insight.
Pleasure to be here, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to give my views of what's happening.
And that was Peter Botten, Managing Director for Oil Search. It is official that Papua New Guinea is a shareholder of Oil Search and has interest in the developments of PRL 15, otherwise known as Elk Antelope. What the UBS loan has brought this time around in Papua New Guinea, when in reflection of the last IPIC deal, is that the people demand more information and communication from the government. Information is power, especially correct and genuine information. And with that, Insight thanks Mr. Botten for his perspective. Until next time, take care.